we talked about this before, but it's that forward momentum, that like
Yes.
hustle, that recognizing what you want and then going for it,
I,
regardless
th-
of what other people are telling you.
I think the big one was don't half-ass it either. And that was
Yeah.
something that kind of like, and there was a pivoting point, at least in the beginning of it, where he had to call his dad to tell him that he wanted to no longer do be a lawyer. He wouldn't didn't want to do law school anymore, and he wanted to go to film school. And being
Mm.
that big of a like the whole time he was growing up, it was like he's going to be the family lawyer. It's going to be like the thing. Um, and he finally like, he makes that transition late, like in the middle of his college career, and just being able to have that conversation with his dad, and his dad literally just saying, well, if you're going to do it, don't half-ass it. Like, it's an approval and that's a green light in and of itself, but it's also a nice little word of wisdom of being like, well, if you're going to do this, you're going to take a change in your life, and you're going to like fuck everything up and like change everything to like to figuring that whole thing out, do it right. Like, then go all in. Don't half-ass it.
And so we're talking about sort of like upbringing and responses to things, and how that helped him navigate these decision points. What has it been like for you? I mean, like, what do you learn for yourself from that? I can say from my example, I know there's been certain points like that in my life, and I feel like in some ways, definitely, there's a lot of confidence placed in my ability to do great things. But then
Mm-hmm.
on the other hand, too, maybe the things that I wanted from my heart weren't always celebrated or like supported fully. And so it was kind of like are you sure you know what you want? Or like, are you sure this is right? Or this is not, what you're saying is not right. Like, this is right. This is the right way to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like that's been a source of sort of inner conflict for me that prevents me from just being like, this is what I want. I'm going to acknowledge that and I'm going to go for that thing. And so I'm
Yeah.
curious about what it was like for you and where maybe the learning points are for you from this sort of part of the book or these instances that happen with Matthew.
No, it's kind of the same thing. There, growing up, I wanted to go for film, and I
Mm,
technically wanted to be a YouTuber. So, doing my own short films and such, and then trying to apply for college. My family was very supportive of it, but at the same time, it wasn't like a supportive where they would sit down and help me with videos or like watch them and go through it and like do that whole thing. It was more of like, well, if it's what you want to do, go for it, like, and like as long as I knew the little pieces of it, and if I could get a job, if things happen like that, just being very like asking the generic questions of like, will this allow you to live? And that mentality, it was nice to have that, and like the door like opened for you, but
hmm
it's like it wasn't the same, and it does still cause conflict of like, if it's more of the questioning instead of just saying like, go for it, do it, we'll help you, let's figure it out. It's set in a nice little thing, like a lot of questioning, a lot of second guessing what I'm gonna do and how to do
Yeah.
it. So a big problem that I tend to have is I tend to talk about a lot of the things that I want to do to see, and it's something that actually I learned like was a big problem. Maybe it's also like kind of goes in hand with one of the quotes from the book of like, it was it more involved, less impressed, and like being involved in your life, and pushing like, and actually doing the things you say you're gonna do, rather than just like being pressed by the things around you and like just talking the talk. Because I have a big tendency of coming up with ideas for videos and productions, or like, or any project and whatever, and I tell people about it, and then I get enough serotonin boost from just talking to people about it that
Mm,
I'm done. Like, I don't need to actually do it. Like, and I never end up doing it because I already get that little kick of like, oh, that's really cool. You should do that. Oh, that's
the
awesome.
ENFP
Yes, the ego just
time
gets shot up, and
challenge.
you're like, oh,
Mm,
cool. And then so I don't know. It's from this. I think I think just seeing or reading about how he just like
He
went
doesn't
for it.
overthink.
No, he just does it. And
He
I'm like,
just
how? Like, how do you do that? Like, no, dude, I would be sitting there going like, what school should I go to? Can I do this? And like, will I make enough money? Do I have enough rent for the next 5 months? Like, he's just like, I'm going to film school. You're like, okay.
yeah, I thought the same thing. It's like, and of course he's painting his decisions on paper now. So I think that a ton of the sort of like the filler stuff is
Sure.
missing from
Of
the
course.
book, right? But at the same time, like I really do feel like after reading, still not the whole book yet, since I'm like reading and not listening, but after understanding how his life progressed and where he is and getting a sense of that this really was a big key in his evolution and his ability to succeed. And it's like I'm wondering the same thing, like how did he just went for it. And he like even that example of when, so you mentioned he was going to law school, and then he is finishing preparing for an exam for law school, I assume. And he finds this book at his friend's place, and it's something about like a salesman, the perfect salesman or something like that, and he realizes the book is talking about the reader is the perfect salesman. And he gets so involved in this book, and the book advises him to, it's like one of the first tips it gives is practice good habits. And it comes to his mind that it's a good habit to not lie to himself. And he's been lying to himself where he really wants to tell stories for a living. It's like something he's been increasingly interested in over time. And so, yeah, at that point, he decides, like, I'm going to film school. And he immediately tells his like musters up the energy. He knows it's going to be difficult. So it's difficult even for him, right, to call his dad. He tries to find the perfect timing. So I think it's not
Mhm.
just like he has all this confidence that
Yeah.
it might come across, right? He's still doubtful of what
Yeah.
his dad will say. And he's like
Mhm.
pacing back and forth. That sounds like from the depiction that he gives. And he figures out the right time to call his dad, where it's going to be most likely like he'll be in a relaxed state or whatever. And he calls him and he
Mhm.
breaks the news to him, and his dad says, "Don't half-ass it." But I've had similar conversations with my dad where I changed my major, and at first did so without really telling my parents, but it was the right thing to do for me. But it took me a lot longer to come to terms with the decisions I had to make and to sort of face my fears and just like be open about it. Be like, this
Why?
is what I'm doing.
Why?
Why? I think the response that I would get is different. And I did
Terrifying.
get a different response. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't get the well half, just don't
Don't
half
have
ass
as
it.
it. Yeah. Mm.
So going back to what you were saying, I do think that that's a critical sort of. So I guess my question for us is, how do we now pivot to where we can put ourselves in a place to get those green lights, put ourselves in a place to get that that
Mhm.
confidence of just go for this thing and
Mhm.
don't overthink, don't overanalyze, don't keep doubting yourself.